Discover the incredible power of letting go. 5 surprising steps to transform your life today. Rain pattered against the roof of Sarah's small, crooked house, mirroring the chaotic storm brewing in her heart. The relentless throbbing of duties loomed at the forefront of her mind. As a 32-year-old nursing assistant in the struggling town of Maplewood, Sarah's life often felt like a treadmill, dull, heavy, and stuck in one place. She couldn't remember the last time she had taken a moment for herself, lost in the routine of long shifts, patient charts, and the never-ending cycle of bills demanding her attention. As she caught a glimpse of the growing pile on the kitchen table, her heart sank. Would it ever end? Overwhelmed by the expectations bearing down on her, especially those of her traditional mother, she often felt invisible. Unloading Daniel's schoolwork and her aspirations had left her spotty sketches untouched since high school. Creativity was an afterthought now, buried beneath deadlines and the clamor of motherhood. It was a cruel irony each time she picked up a brush in her mind's eye. Her deeper self fought to surface. Yet every brushstroke felt like a betrayal to the reality her mother had ingrained in her. Stability, practicality, these were virtues to protect rather than dreams to chase. As Sarah rummaged through the dusty attic one rainy afternoon, her fingers brushed against a wooden box, casting aside years of dust. Inside lay a collection of letters and vibrant canvases that breathed with emotion. Her late father's spirit hung heavy in the room, alongside his unfulfilled dreams of artistry. She felt an electric pulse igniting within her. Could she dare to feel this again? But as quickly as excitement rushed in, her fears ambushed her heart. What would her mother say if she knew? Her son, Daniel, always attuned to her moods, reactively observed the shifts in her spirit. She could see the glimmers in his eyes, an encouragement she hadn't heard in years, yet they felt like unwelcome pressure. What if her pursuit of art risked their financial stability? That night, she lay awake, thoughts racing with uncertain resolutions, the weight of familial duties squeezing her chest. The canvas in her mind had begun to blur, each stroke conflicting with the dire truths of parental responsibility. "I'm just a nursing assistant," she whispered repeatedly, but the truth began to feel like a prison. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the looming art competition on the horizon, Sarah felt like a raw nerves tangled between risk and desire. Just the City Hall gallery felt oppressive. Her mother's eyes, carved with skepticism, only deepened her desire to retreat. In that moment, standing before her easel, everything felt paralyzing. Each moment spent in hesitation echoed the fears she's always harbored. What if this echoes of her heart's whispers somehow shattered the fragile world they had built? Yet, a fire ebbed against all odds. The painting lingered in the depths of her mind, twisting emotions into hues and strokes. It begged to break free, just like her spirit. Would she step forward, or would she continue to hold down the chains? The tension crescendoed with every pulse, leaving Sarah on the precipice of self-discovery, caught in the thrall of possibility yet terrified of the judgment that could follow. In that charged silence, as the shadows loomed, she prepared to step forward into the unknown, a battle of worlds colliding with every breath she took. The morning sun broke through the lingering clouds, casting a warm glow throughout Sarah's kitchen. Despite the light, a heaviness clung to her resolve. Day after day, she let this dream flicker within her, never quite allowing it to ignite into reality. As she sipped her coffee, she stared blankly at the easel, where the blank canvas sat in a mocking stillness, waiting for the release of her spirit. What would it be like to paint again? To feel the glide of the brush against the fabric, creating something that felt so deeply authentic to her? But doubt whispered incessantly, filling her mind with a cacophony of what-ifs. What if she failed? What if she disappointed Daniel? These questions replayed like a haunting refrain, drowning out the excitement that dared to emerge. Determined to face these fears, Sarah decided to take a small step. She could practice painting not for the competition, but for herself. The notion felt radical yet liberating. She pulled out the wooden box from the attic again. This time, she carefully selected a canvas, feeling the weight of her father's dreams resting on it. It felt significant, like history beckoning her to honor it as she set up her workspace. A rush of adrenaline mixed with trepidation wrapped around her like a warm, suffocating blanket. Touchable colors were in front of her. Every stroke of the brush could be a reclamation of herself. Yet the inner critic loomed larger. "You are not an artist," it taunted, emboldened by her memories of constraints and expectations. Focused, she took a deep breath and began applying colors with her brush. Each swipe was accompanied by a flurry of emotions: joy, fear, regret. Shades blended, revealing the colors of her soul, raw and unfiltered. Hours slipped by unnoticed until her son burst into the room, his playful energy interrupting her concentration. "Wow, Mom, you're painting," Daniel exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. "I'm just trying something new," Sarah replied, her voice shaky yet proud. He approached the canvas, studying it as though it were a masterpiece. "It looks amazing. Can I help?" His request surprised her, stirring a protective instinct. "This is just for me," she asserted, unsure whether she was defending her personal time or her burgeoning identity. Daniel's enthusiasm, however, softened her resolve. Instead of rejecting his offer, she considered the bond they would share through this simple act of creation. "Okay, but no judgment," she laughed lightly, her heart warming at his delight as they splashed colors together. Sarah felt the walls of her internal prison start to crack. The laughter and mutual joy infiltrated the space where worry used to reign. Was it possible that her journey toward self-expression could foster a connection with her son as well? The thought was exhilarating as they continued painting. Bursts of creativity flowed, giving way to sparkles of laughter, and for the first time, she felt like a mother and an artist all at once. Yet even as the joy swelled, a shadow hovered. Competition day lurked around the corner. The thought of exposing her work, her vulnerability, sent tremors through her resolve. Would the judgment of others extinguish the fire she had just begun to stoke? In this blend of creativity and motherhood, Sarah stood on the edge of a pivotal choice. She had unearthed a facet of her identity, but would she harness it or let it slip back into obscurity? The deeper question now lingered. What would she sacrifice to pursue this new path? As the colorful strokes dried, Sarah sensed that there was much more at stake. Inhaling sharply, she turned her gaze back to the canvas, knowing that the moment of truth was approaching. Would she let go of her fears, or would the turmoil return to silence her artistry once more? The next morning began with the same sun streaming through the kitchen window, but today brought a different sense of anticipation. The easel awaited Sarah like an open book, ready to absorb the thoughts swirling in her mind. As she poured her morning coffee, determination swirled within her alongside the rich aroma. Today was not just another day. It was a chance to embrace the shift she began to feel within herself. With the sun illuminating her workspace, she approached the canvas, heart racing. The previous day's joyful painting session with Daniel still echoed in her mind, sparking the faint embers of confidence. Those splashes of color were more than mere pigment. They were evidence of her willingness to reclaim a part of herself she thought was lost. But lingering doubts also shadowed her resolve. As the familiar whispers crept back in, "You're not good enough. What if it's a failure?" She took a step back. These thoughts, heavy and obstructive, felt all too familiar. Yet today she was determined not to let them dominate her. Without overthinking, she grabbed her brush, allowing instinct to guide her. Each stroke became an exploration, a dance of experimentation that pushed beyond her self-imposed limits. She painted freely, transforming the canvas into a vivid landscape that reflected her internal journey. Each color had its own story, a tale of struggle intertwined with triumph, and the creativity flowed from her like a long-suppressed river breaking through a dam as moments dissolved into hours. She lost herself in the process, a process she initially feared but now embraced. Freedom filled her spirit, but with each stroke came a pulse of fear, a reminder of what lay ahead, the competition. It loomed larger than before, a dark specter that threatened to eclipse the joy of creation. The juxtaposition of vulnerability and courage sparked a deeper realization. To truly honor her artistry, she would have to face that fear directly. The familiar sound of Daniel's laughter drew her back from the brink of overwhelm. He appeared in the doorway, eyes alight with curiosity. "What are you making today?" he asked eagerly, bouncing on his toes as he approached. Sarah paused, considering her next words carefully. "I'm working on something special, but it's still a secret," she replied, her voice laced with excitement and protective instinct. "Can I keep a secret too?" His request was earnest, innocent. "Of course," she said, a smile breaking across her face as she felt warmth spread in her chest. "Okay, then," he chimed, "just promise to show me when it's ready." The conviction in his voice reignited a flicker of hope within Sarah. It was as if his enthusiasm carried a weight of validation, reminding her of the connection art could foster not only between her and her son but with her very identity. This interaction brought forth an epiphany. Perhaps her art didn't need to prove anything to the world except its authenticity at that moment. Yet the shadow of competition lurked. Would she be able to embrace feedback? The looming judgment felt like a wall that stood between her aspirations and reality, and she knew she needed to confront it. Heavy with thought, she returned to her canvas. It was now or never. In taking this step, fully engaging with her artistry, she would have to summon the courage to share it with others, despite her fears. Would her desire to grow outweigh the restraint of self-doubt? As she dipped her brush once again, the question settled in her chest, echoing with challenge and promise. Today, she would paint for herself, but soon, she might have to stretch that canvas across a broader audience. As she let the colors pour out, one thought remained: what if the unveiling revealed not just art, but the truest version of herself? With each stroke, she prepared for the next chapter of her journey, aware that every revealing moment would bring her closer to understanding her newfound identity. The time had come to face that judgment, both from others and within. What shape would her art take when seen through the eyes of the world? With the first light of the dawn breaking through her window, Sarah felt an unusual stillness around her. She had painted late into the night, a flurry of colors and shapes culminating in a vibrant chaos that now echoed the tumult within her. Yet, amidst the confusion, she had discovered something profound. A limp confidence had started to unfurl in her heart, fragile but determined. Today, she wouldn't just paint. She would take another step into the uncharted territory of sharing her work. The air in her studio was charged as she prepared for the day ahead. She had agreed to meet with a local art group she had lurked about for some time. The thought of it crashed against her thoughts like a wave, stirring both excitement and anxiety. The prospect of putting herself out there felt like peeling away her layers, exposing herself to both admiration and critique. How could she face the scrutiny? Yet, there was a flicker of determination to embrace the fear that brushed cool fingers against her spine. As Sarah gathered her materials, she caught a glimpse of her unfinished canvas. "This is me," she whispered to herself, a mantra meant to affirm her growth. She wrapped her fingers around the edge of her painting, feeling the texture of the paint beneath her fingertips, a representation of her labor, her tears, and her emerging identity. Properly fueled, she quickly analyzed her thoughts. She could slip back into hesitation, allowing fear to draw her back like a tethered anchor, or she could leap forward into a brave new realm of possibilities. Arriving at the coffee shop where the group was to meet felt both surreal and daunting. A mingling of eclectic artists dotted the cozy, sunlit space. The atmosphere hummed with laughter and creativity, yet the clamor only amplified the doubt spinning wildly in her mind. The thought of sharing her work, of being seen, intimidated her to her core. What if her colors were wrong? What if her perspective was flawed? Time paused as she mentally flayed herself in anticipation, but then she remembered Daniel's enthusiastic encouragement. Taking a deep breath, she scanned the room. The artists were opening their hearts, sharing their deepest stories through various mediums. She longed for that freedom, But in that moment of hesitation, the door swung open, and a vibrant figure entered Daniel's art teacher, a woman whose confidence could light a room. Sarah felt the wave of anxious anticipation retreat slightly. Her presence stirred a sense of belonging. "Welcome, everyone," the teacher's voice rang out, smooth and warm, and for a moment, Sarah felt an electric pulse of possibility. During the sharing, she listened intently, noting the diverse expressions and how each artist bravely faced their vulnerabilities through their creations. Her heart raced as she imagined revealing her own work. Encouraged by the supportive atmosphere, Sarah scribbled some notes, articulating her thoughts and concerns. Facing an internal battle, she weighed her options. Should she reveal her art? The thought alone caused her heart to thrum. She wanted to be a part of this vibrant community as the time approached for her to share. She fought down flushes of insecurity. An internal dialogue ensued. What will they think? What if they don't see the beauty? But she had to confront the reality of her self-doubt. Instead of allowing it to consume her completely, she decided to take the risk. If she could not embrace her work fully, how could she expect others to see its value? Finally, standing in front of her peers felt transformative. She presented her painting, her voice trembling but strong, reciting the story behind her creation and her journey of rediscovery. As she spoke, she realized that she was no longer merely an observer. In the sharing of her own tumultuous journey, she was forging connections, igniting something between her and the audience. The applause that erupted once she finished sent a rush of warmth through her body, exhilarating and electrifying. In that moment, she did not only glimpse acceptance. She caught sight of her evolving self, someone who was shedding the past. But amid the warmth of her triumph lingered a new fear. As she mingled and soaked in the conversations, a question nagged persistently: what if she was seen not only as an artist for this moment, but as one deserving of deeper scrutiny and expectation? What if she could no longer return to the shadows? In the swirl of exhilaration and trepidation, she felt a new chapter beckoning, one that demanded not just openness, but an elevation of her craft and a confrontation with those deeper fears. The journey had just begun, and she realized that to thrive in this newfound space, she would have to grapple with the truth she was building the weight of expectation, both from herself and the world beyond her walls. What would it mean to not only share but to grow authentically? And how could she navigate the balancing act of embracing her artistic identity amidst that evolving landscape? The bustle of the cafe faded into an abstract background hum, a canvas of noise that she could escape within. While Sarah engaged with fellow artists, an unexpected sense of discomfort crept in. Their keen insights and authentic expressions sparked creativity in her heart, yet simultaneously ignited a creeping self-consciousness. Each interaction taunted her with the pressure of maintaining her artistic identity. Would they expect her to produce masterpieces at each unveiling? Or would her imagery be dismissed as naive? Plates clinked, and laughter flowed as conversations thrived around her. But Sarah was acutely aware of her silence in this overwhelming crowd. A barrage of insecurities stormed through her mind like dark clouds, blocking her anticipated sunlight. Her earlier confidence, forged from the rawness of sharing, felt frayed at the edges, ready to unravel as she meandered further into analysis of her work. Would she be able to meet the expectations implicit in the applause she had so recently received? Just then, a voice broke her reverie. "I loved how you shared your piece. It felt real," a fellow artist mused, his eyes bright with honesty. "But I'm curious, what do you plan to do next?" That simple question sent a ripple of shock through her. The idea of next sought something deeper than she had considered. What exactly did she want? The next her mind raced. "I want to continue creating, to grow," she managed, still wrestling with the sudden weight of looking forward. "But I also wonder if I can live up to whatever that might mean." "That's the trick," he replied, his voice calm. "It's not about reaching some end goal. It's about the journey and what you uncover about yourself along the way." His words danced in her consciousness. She realized then that her artistic journey had to intertwine with her personal one. She didn't have to produce phenomenal work each time. The discovery was in the acts of creating, exploring, and, importantly, letting go of expectations. how liberating it could be to embrace imperfection, to accept failure as part of the process. As that realization settled, a new idea flickered in her mind like a distant star. She could push her boundaries further. Not only could she paint to express feelings or instants, but she could also explore new mediums, experiment with layers, textures, and forms, open her artistry to uncharted styles and concepts. What if she signed up for a workshop that challenged her skills or sought feedback not just from supportive peers but from more critical perspectives? The idea kindled a fresh surge of energy, invigorating her thoughts. Boldness glimmered as she envisioned working alongside artists whose styles she admired, whose critique could refine or disrupt her way of thinking. To immerse herself in new challenges was not to dilute her confidence but to amplify it, strengthening her skills while embracing the chaos of growth. Yet, would she find the courage to actually take those steps? That question loomed, igniting a tangle of uncertainty and exhilaration alike. Would she lean into her fears, allow herself to be vulnerable again, and immerse herself in future endeavors that could blossom creatively or break her heart? With a blend of excitement and trepidation, Sarah resolved to explore new avenues. The realm of possibilities expanded as she stepped deeper into her artistic growth, determined to embrace the messiness that lay ahead. As she bid farewell to her newfound friends, Sarah realized she felt less burdened by expectation. For the first time, she nurtured a budding excitement about her future, one lit by the prospect of exploration and discovery. Little did she know that an unexpected challenge awaited on this path of artistic revelation. But for now, the thrill of what lay ahead shone brighter than any fear. The moment of truth arrived when she would have to confront her fears head-on. What lay beyond her initial exploration would test her limits in ways she could hardly predict. Would she embrace this journey to become the artist she yearned to be? The following morning, Sarah awoke with a sense of anticipation bubbling within her. It wasn't just the typical rush of caffeine-induced energy. It was the tangible thrill of potential. Rather than diving into the familiar comfort of her routine, she grabbed her sketchbook and ventured to a park nearby, seeking inspiration from the world outside her window. With each stroke of her pencil, she envisioned her artistic evolution. Nature around her pulsated with life, birds darting through the air, children playing, and trees swaying gently. The vibrancy offered a stark contrast to the doubt that had plagued her the night before. She felt enveloped in a new clarity, realizing that the chaos swirling in her mind stemmed from an inner conflict: her desire to be authentic yet fear of vulnerability. Was vulnerability truly a weakness or the birthplace of creativity? Each line she drew seemed to answer that question. Embracing imperfections didn't mean relinquishing her integrity. Instead, it formed a bridge to authenticity. The fleeting moments of joy she captured in her sketches would fuel her artistry. Those raw emotions painted in shaky lines needed to be celebrated, not shunned. Amidst her creative flow, Sarah made a list of possible workshops to attend. Each offering sparked a flicker of intrigue as she contemplated the personal stakes involved. She wanted something that pushed her, something that nudged her outside the comforting embrace of her familiar style. Would it be abstract painting? Mixed media? Perhaps a digital arts course? After a fleeting moment of hesitation, she picked a nearby mixed media workshop, drawn to its promise of exploration through unconventional materials. Her heart raced with both excitement and apprehension of what lay ahead. Mixed media could challenge her perceptions, confront her meticulously crafted aesthetics, and break the mold she'd silently forced upon herself. As she pressed her pencil into the page, she was struck by a wave of doubt. What if she acted impulsively? What if she couldn't keep up with the others? The familiar tendrils of insecurity writhed around her thoughts. But then the voice of her fellow artist echoed in her mind, a reminder that the journey itself held value. Determined to face her fears, she tore out the page from her sketchbook and tucked it into her pocket. It was a symbol of her commitment to challenge herself, to confront the inhibitions that had tangled her mind. Boldness meant more than just artistic choices. It was a mentality, a lifestyle. That evening, as she sat at her kitchen table, Sarah took a moment to breathe deeply. She reviewed her list of workshops again. The task that initially felt daunting now glimmered with possibilities. With each name she whispered softly to herself, she felt a rush of resolve. She wasn't just signing up for classes. She was declaring war on her own limiting beliefs. Yet, the peaceful ambience of her home couldn't mask the unmistakable feeling of impending tension bubbling just beneath the surface. Would she truly step beyond her comfort zone? Would her new approach truly unlock the potential she yearned to express through her art? Taking a deep breath, Sarah prepared to hit submit. Just as she clicked the button, an email notification chimed, a message from a local gallery inviting her to display her work. The offer, unexpected but tantalizing, sent her heart racing once more. Would she be ready to showcase her evolving art? The thought charged through her like an electric current, an exhilarating blend of potential and dread. In that moment, Sarah stood poised at a crossroads, one path leading to the anticipated workshop and the other promising a platform for her existing identity as an artist. The implications of each decision cast shadows over her, yet the thrill of discovery demanded she make bold choices. Which direction would she take? The chance for artistic growth loomed large, but the voice of self-doubt echoed loudly. It was time to confront that nagging uncertainty head-on. Would she rise to the occasion, or would she retreat into the confines of a comfort zone that no longer served her? As the silence of her apartment filled the air, she sensed that the real revelation lay just ahead. There was power in letting go of fear and redefining what it meant to be an artist. Would she find the courage to embrace this change, or would she let fear dictate her path? The moment Sarah opened the email inviting her to showcase her work, a battle raged in her mind. It was an opportunity that seemed to dangle before her, glittering with promise yet shrouded in uncertainty. She stared at the screen, her heart pounding in sync with the relentless rhythm of her thoughts. Was she truly ready to expose her evolving self to an audience, to reveal the very soul of her artistry? She leaned back in her chair, reflecting on her past experiences. Each showcased piece of art had been a carefully curated reflection of her state of mind, bottled up and presented to the world as complete. But this was different. This invitation felt like raw flesh waiting to be scrutinized under the harsh glare of judgment. Would they see her imperfections? Her evolving style? A wave of clarity washed over her. This was her chance, not only to display her art but also to chart a course for her evolution as an artist. Maybe it was time to embrace her hesitations, to present them as part of the process rather than shying away from them. If she could push herself into a new realm, acknowledging both her strengths and her struggles, perhaps she could forge meaningful connections through her work. With renewed determination, Sarah grabbed her sketchbook and began to flip through the pages. Sketches of half-formed ideas dotted the pages. Some were bold and adventurous, while others hesitated between lines. In those moments, she realized that her journey wasn't about producing flawless art, but about expressing her inherent complexity. That realization birthed a new understanding within her. Both her imperfections and her aspirations deserved a place in her presentation. Revolutionary ideas flashed through her mind as she pondered how to fuse her mixed media work into this exhibition. What if she transformed her sketches into tangible installations, blending colors, textures, and emotions? Each piece could tell a story of progress, of struggles met and embraced rather than shunned. The thought thrilled her. As she began conceptualizing her pieces, she felt the fear ebbing away, replaced by excitement. Here was an outlet for her boldness. The gallery could bear witness to her metamorphosis. At that moment, she grasped how essential it was to redefine success. The criteria were not merely to please others but to remain true to her artistic journey, to invite others into her vulnerability. Driven by the urgency of inspiration, Sarah rushed to her desk, gathering materials she had long ignored: scraps of paper, vibrant paints, and found objects that whispered of stories. She created a plan, meticulously outlining how she could incorporate her mixed media workshop ideas into their exhibition theme. But as she contemplated all the transformative changes she wanted to implement, a flicker of doubt surfaced again. Would the gallery audience resonate with her vision? Could they really understand the emotional weight behind her choices? Was she ready to step away from the shadows? Just then, the memories of her peers from the workshop flashed in her mind, and their encouragement came to life. They had believed in her when she hesitated. Now, she needed to summon their support and expertise. Sarah grabbed her phone and composed a group message, asking her fellow workshop attendees to collaborate on this journey. Would they be willing to contribute pieces or help build the exhibition? The seconds stretched into minutes as she hovered over the send button, questioning her initiative. Then the anticipation of sharing her ideas broke through her apprehensions. She hit send. For a brief moment all was still, but as the responses pinged back with enthusiasm and support, Sarah felt an exhilarating conviction settle within her. Collaboration would only deepen her connection to her artistic community and elevate her work beyond her own experience. Yet the looming question pulsed in her mind: would this collaboration reflect the authenticity of her journey or merely serve to mask her uncertainties? How far was she willing to extend herself beyond established boundaries? With her heart racing and her thoughts swirling, Sarah envisioned the art piece that could stand central in the gallery, a confrontation of vulnerabilities, unified by the support of others, but unmistakably her own. Would she dare to bridge that divide, to share not only her achievements but also the intricacies of her evolution? How might she translate her internal conflicts onto the external canvas of her work? As doubt clashed with boldness, the ever-familiar urge to retreat whispered in her ear. But now, the anticipation of what was to come flooded her with strength. Where would this commitment lead her next? As days passed, Sarah found herself lost in a whirlwind of creativity and collaboration. Her workshop peers' responses had ignited a fire within her. With each message of enthusiasm and willingness to participate, her excitement grew, reshaping her artistic vision like clay molded in her own hands. She carved out dedicated hours for brainstorming, sketching fresh ideas that intertwined her evolving narrative with the contributions from her collaborators. Each meeting thrummed with energy. Her fellow artists brought their unique perspectives, challenging her to stretch her thinking. The dialogue around their work was more than just artistic. It became a celebration of shared struggles, fears, and dreams. Sarah felt liberated in that space, where vulnerability turned into collective strength. However, when she returned home each evening, doubt crept back, wrapping its icy fingers around her heart. Were these connections genuinely uplifting her or simply blurring the lines of her authentic voice? As the exhibition date loomed closer, the stakes felt overwhelming. While collaboration endured a beautiful promise, fleeting shadows of self-doubt whispered negative narratives. One evening, staring at a blank canvas in her studio, Sarah was struck by an idea that sent exhilaration racing through her veins. What if she created a piece solely inspired by her initial feelings of hesitance? A raw display of chaos, capturing the tumultuous emotions she had clashed against for so long. Perhaps this could be the cathartic release she desperately needed, blending the messy and authentic aspects of her identity aligned with her peers' responses, creating a bridge of sincerity and complexity. But as she set her brush to the canvas, her hands trembled. The fear that had haunted her for so long threatened to boil over, demanding attention. She wrestled with the decision to display something that might not fit the polished perception others expected from an exhibition. The dichotomy of wanting success while yearning for authenticity left her teetering on the brink of a precipice. Am I really ready for this? She asked herself, quaking with vulnerability. In that moment of contemplation, her phone buzzed with a reminder. Her phone call with Jenna, one of her closest workshop friends. They had made plans to discuss their joint efforts on their installations. A comforting thread of connection pulled at her resolve. She had always leaned on Jenna's insight whenever she faced her creative roadblocks. Why shouldn't I share this fear? She thought. With renewed courage, she dialed Jenna's number, ready to express her inner conflict. As Jenna picked up and cheerfully greeted her, Sarah launched into a passionate account of her anxieties and newfound artistic inspirations. She laid it all bare: her fears of inauthenticity, the chaos of collaboration, and her transformative vision. Jenna listened intently, responding not with platitudes but with her own revelations of self-doubt. In this moment of sharing, Sarah felt freed from the confines of her mind, both women navigating through their insecurities with grace. They discussed creating a joint piece, showcasing their struggles as warriors in the realms of creativity. The power of that connection reignited her inspiration. They talked late into the night, their ideas becoming spurred by honesty. Yet, Beneath her excitement, shadows still nagged at the edges of her thoughts. Could she truly face the unknown depths of her vulnerability? As she hung up, a thrilling mixture of exhilaration and apprehension pushed through her. Would opening up her internal dialogue connect her audience with her artistry as she hoped? Or would they merely glance at it as chaos, a detour on the path to traditional art as they'd known it? With so many unanswered questions swirling in her mind, Sarah stood before her canvas once more. Her brush hovered over the paint, the final choice remaining undiscovered, just out of reach. Would she embrace the thrill of letting her work reflect her evolving self unapologetically? One thin breath held, the swirling possibilities each moment, a chance to decide how to navigate her art and identity forward. What would her next stroke reveal about who she was becoming, both as an artist and as a person? As the weight of that question settled heavily in her stomach, she prepared herself for the journey yet to come. A sudden thought crashed like a wave against her resolve. Could embodying her uncertainties truly translate into a masterpiece? Or should she remain safely cloistered away from vulnerability? With dawn painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Sarah sat in her studio, breath steady yet shallow, grappling with the precarious balance between her artistic ambition and the suffocating grip of self-doubt. The canvas loomed large, an empty void waiting for her to execute the vision that had ignited her spirit the night before. Still, trepidation wrapped tightly around her fingers, stalling her creative flow. In that moment, an unexpected clarity broke through the fog of her thoughts. The very act of creating, she realized, was laced with vulnerability. It wasn't just about crafting art that fit someone else's mold, but about embracing her own chaotic spectrum of emotions. She needed to strip away the polished pretense and instead reveal the raw truth behind the brush. Determined, Sarah dipped her paintbrush into a vibrant hue, its brightness a stark contrast to the somber grays of her doubt. She began with sweeping strokes that mimicked the whirlwinds of her internal conflict, letting the colors flow freely, infused with the energy she had gained from her discussions with Jenna. This chaotic expression bestowed upon her canvases a permission that she had been clawing for, a visceral depiction of fear, uncertainty, and courage. As the shapes began to take form, a swirl of colors interspersed with jagged lines, she felt an adrenaline surge. Each stroke propelled her further beyond her fears and doubts, casting light onto the shadows that once held her captive. This wasn't merely a piece for an exhibition. It was a reclamation, a personal manifesto proclaiming that imperfection was not just accepted but celebrated. But just as quickly as her resolve strengthened, a darker thought intruded. What if, instead of applauding her bravery, the art community dismissed this piece as folly? The pressure mounted. Anxiety began to seep into her brushstrokes again, distorting the raw expressions she intended to convey. What if they expected a neat bow tied on her creative struggles, yet found an unruly tapestry that fell short of their notions of beauty? Casting her gaze outside, the rising sun illuminated the surrounding trees. Their tangled roots spoke to her, the chaotic yet beautiful interweaving of existence resonating with her burgeoning work. With renewed determination, Sarah picked up a different brush, one reserved for the fiercest colors in her palette. She envisioned her finished piece as both a powerful self-portrait and an open wound, an invitation for others to witness her struggle without judgment. As she continued painting, her internal dialogue transformed. Questions morphed into affirmations. "This is who I am," became her mantra, pushing her to venture deeper into herself. The hours slipped away, and she painted with abandon, no longer a careful artist but a fearless creator unafraid of exposing her scars. Each strike of the brush revealed new depths, inviting complexity that ignited her enthusiasm yet again. With the colors now vibrant and the chaos wrapping itself around a newfound cohesion, Sarah once again paused, stepping back to survey her work. The piece pulsed with life, a reflection of her journey through uncertainty towards authenticity. Even amid the triumph, a nagging question flickered at the back of her mind: if this piece garnered unexpected recognition, how would she navigate the next project where vulnerability might again rear its head? In that moment, she understood the walls she had built around her creativity might also confine her potential. The thought flickered like the light she sought to embrace. Could she dare to sidestep her fears to uncover what lay beyond? As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows around her, Sarah's heart raced with excitement about the possibilities ahead. With new clarity and purpose, she realized that part of her artistic evolution hinged on confronting her vulnerabilities. But another gale of uncertainty loomed ahead. What would happen when she shared this revealing piece with others? And was she ready to face the tides of their reactions? Standing amid the sunlight spilling through her studio window, Sarah felt the culmination of her journey converging into a singular moment. Weeks of artistic exploration, self-discovery, and vulnerability converged within her latest piece, transforming uncertainty into power. The rough strokes across the canvas told her story, echoing the chaotic yet empowering emotions she had embraced: fear, courage, and authenticity. With the exhibition around the corner and the knowledge that this work would be her first public portrayal as an artist, she hesitated only for a second before affirming her resolve. This was not a painting laden with striving for perfection. It was a testament to her evolution. As the hours ticked down to the grand unveiling, anticipation mixed with a hint of anxiety. Dark thoughts nudged at her subconscious, but she inhaled deeply, reciting the mantra that had become her anchor: "This is who I am." With radiant determination, she would transform this exhibition into a declaration of her journey. When she arrived at the gallery, the vibrant space buzzed with energy, walls covered with expressions of growth, pain, and triumph. Fresh scents of polished wood and paint lingered in the air as she set up her display. Standing back, she surveyed the crowd. Filtering in their conversations echoed a combination of praise and critique. Would they recognize the rawness of her effort? Would they see her as an artist worthy of belonging? Throughout the evening, she engaged with visitors who admired her work. As they approached her canvas, she felt not only pride but also an unexpected assurance. Their eyes lit up with curiosity, their questions about her process igniting sparks of connection. What inspired this piece? One observer inquired, his gaze fixed on the chaotic strokes that swept across her canvas. Courage surged within her. Instead of offering the rehearsed answers she had practiced, she spoke from her heart, revealing the emotional weight behind every stroke. "This piece embodies my journey, my struggles with self-doubt, and the liberation of embracing who I really am," she explained. With every word, she felt her confidence multiply, crystallizing her identity not just as an artist, but as a woman unafraid to let go of her insecurities. A warm applause rippled through the crowd as they soaked in her authentic vulnerability. The recognition was overwhelming. Sarah felt seen for the first time as a multifaceted individual instead of a mere nursing assistant wearing the label of motherhood. Instead of only existing within the shadows, she had allowed herself to step into the light, and the response was electric. As the evening progressed, a gallery owner approached her with enthusiasm, expressing interest in showcasing her work further. His words delivered a validation she had yearned for, and with it came the realization of her hard-won achievements. She wasn't merely conquering her insecurities. She was establishing her place in the art world, defining herself on her own terms. With the night drawing to a close, Sarah stood before the vibrant canvas once more, reflections of the evening mingling with the artwork. She felt an exhilarating sense of alignment within her spirit. The threads of her journey had woven together seamlessly. Reaching this pinnacle affirmed her evolution. She had faced her fears, discovered her voice, and connected with others through the powerful lens of art. Stepping away from the gallery, she took a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill her lungs. This was not just an end. It was a new beginning. She had achieved a transformation that went well beyond the external recognition. It was one of self-acceptance, empowerment, and most importantly, courage. As she navigated the path ahead, she felt a boundless excitement brewing within her. The workshops ahead would further foster her growth, and collaborations with peers would only serve to deepen her artistry. But now she understood the essence of being an artist, intertwined with the ability to let go of perfection and secure herself in authenticity. No longer would she shrink from the challenge of vulnerability, but rather wield it like a brush, painting her path forward with unabashed boldness. This was her life, every layer adding depth and intricate beauty. Sarah had embraced her journey, and it was only just beginning. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because it truly makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible transformation and her future journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Your support is invaluable.